We have the ability to love, to create, to think, to breathe, to partner with creation. We can actually change and shape things. We have the image of our Creator in us. We are beautiful people. The world is a beautiful place. Every corner of the world has God's fingerprints all over it. But there's something about it that is broken. And that all stems back to the fact that there was a broken trust with humanity and God. The whole created order broke trust with its Creator. And it started with us. And so there's a brokenness in the world around us. And so people make choices that are just mistakes. We live in a world where sometimes we have heartache and things that happen because of illness, sickness, and disease. And so we find out, this is where the whacking is going to come in. We want to make it dramatic for us, okay? So this is us, and we get the news that our parents, we get the news that someone in our family has got cancer. Whack. Alright? We get the news, and we find out that someone was texting while they were driving, and we got the phone call that I'm not going to be able to talk to my friend anymore. Whack. Whoa. Back to that whole, like, not so hard. Alright, that was... Sorry. Alright, wow. Sorry. Oh, I actually thought that might happen, so...
We have extra string.
Alright, so while I tie this up...
Poor unicorn. Jake really want to talk to his friend, huh?
So what we're going to do is, as I tie this up, we get the news that our friends have illness, don't hit by the way. Illness and sickness and disease. We find out that our friends were out there driving and texting and didn't see where they were going, ran off the road. We just dealt with a tragedy in our own area just a short year ago. Totally tragic. Whole life ahead of him. Driving home, texting, lost his life. Right off the side of the road, ran right into a tree. Nothing crazy, not a bad kid, not out driving, not drunk, not anything like that. He said, "What are you doing?" It was just a simple mistake. Probably just looked up and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes," or something. And who knows? The other person on the other end was texting and was like, "Where are you? Where are you?" They finally get a phone call, but they're not going to respond to that text. And you wonder, God, what's going on? Why is that happening? Why did that happen to me? We are people that are fragile. We are people that are frail. And we are people that, because of our brokenness with God, do not last forever. We do not live forever here on this earth. And so death happens. And it's not anything that God has necessarily done where God said, "I'm going to make that person text." And so when we start to say, "God, why did this happen?" There may not be another why other than that the world that we live in is broken. And people make broken choices. So that's the second origin, the second place that pain comes from, is because we live in a broken world, people make broken choices. And sometimes we fall victim of pain with other people's broken choices. We come home and we deal with parents that are fighting. We come to find out that our friends we thought were our friends shared some really personal stuff about us, and word gets out at our school, and now our whole life is exposed to people we didn't want to be exposed to. We have boyfriends and girlfriends that use us. Okay, go ahead. We have other things that happen in our life because of other people's poor choices. Someone chooses to go home drunk because they think they're okay, and they want to drive home, and they drive home drunk. Their choice to make it just a decision that is broken causes the death and pain of somebody else. It wasn't even their life. That person lived, but the person that they hit didn't. And you wonder, why, God? Why did it happen to that person? That person made a choice. And God has somehow been able to, and we were talking about this in the middle, but God has somehow been able to hold choice and hold His sovereignty in place, that God is going to bring it all to something and He's going to keep it all in control. But in the midst of all of this right now, in the midst of the in-between, we look at that and we say, wow, why did that happen? Someone else made a choice that was broken. And it's not your fault, but you're in it. Some of you have issues that are going on at home and it is not your fault, but you are in it. Some of you have friends that are dealing with stuff that is not their fault, but they're in it. And so when we start to talk about pain and suffering, the advice is like, it's going to be okay, or you just need to change or try harder. It doesn't necessarily work because it's stuff that's completely out of their control. We say, God, where are you? Why? Why now? And so these first two things that happen right now are kind of like pain with a blindfold on. They're not necessarily things that we do because they're deliberate. They're intentional. They're not anything that's done because God is trying to get you because he's out to punish you. It's not God trying to like make your life a worse place because things that see at your heart. I didn't realize that really. So you're doing great. I mean, hold it like this more like and sorry, that after the snap and I just even shit. Okay. So and the next place is really because we have pain from our own broken choices. But we have to be honest that some of the pain that you and I are going through in our life is because we are broken people who have broken trust with God. And we don't trust him, and so we make choices that lead us to pain. Now, it's not necessarily God punishing us or disciplining us, but it's just the natural consequences of choices. All of your choices have consequences. And sometimes they lead to painful things. When we decide to give too much of ourselves in a relationship, and that relationship goes bad, and we're dealing with that, that is not a guilt trip. That is not something that is meant to make us feel awful, like shame on you for doing that, and that's now you're being punished. But that is a reality. When we step outside of what God has intended, there is pain, and there is consequences. And that was why God has given us his word. That is why he's given us his law. That's why he's given us the things to follow and know him. It is not to make us live lame and boring lives. It is to safeguard us. It is to help us experience life as he intended it. But we still make choices, and we deal with it. We deal with regrets. We go to a party and we do things that we thought we shouldn't do. We go ahead and get it. We lie to our friends and cover things up, and we get exposed for the drama that we created. We gossip, we cause problems with our friends, and we break our friends' trust, and now our friends are mad at us, and so we cause pain in our lives. We choose to not trust God in our own matters, and so we cheat, we lie, we steal, we get involved in drugs, or we do other things to comfort us that are not part of God's plan. These are desperate attempts to take matters into our own hands, and so we don't trust God for our comfort, so we go to things like drugs, cutting, even things horrible as suicide and death to try to escape because we're taking that comfort into our hands. And so sometimes we say, why God? And God is just simply saying, trust and obey. Follow me. Okay? And so sometimes that pain happens, and sometimes we cause pain to other people because of our choices. And the final place that we're going to talk about today as far as pain is that we have pain because we have an enemy who pursues to break our trust with God. There's an enemy, and the Bible says he roams around like a roaring lion, seeking to steal, kill, and destroy, and devour us. There is an enemy of God who would love nothing more than to have you not trust God. This enemy doesn't care if you go to church or not. He doesn't care if you do all the Christian things. The bottom line is he cares the most that you don't trust your Creator. And when we don't trust our Creator, we start to make all those choices. We start to fall. We start to stumble. We start to take matters into our own hands. We start to build our lives around nonsense. So we have an enemy, and so that enemy tells us lies about who we are. You're not good enough. That's all right. And yeah, that's really, this is an old string. He told me it was an old string. And I mean, it wasn't. It's super strong. I can't believe you're so fairly strong. Anyways, we're just going to use this. I'm a little afraid to hold it. We're getting Eddie. She's around class, so she's probably like 12.
She's probably bored up there.
I'll hold my canes again. So we live in this world where we're taking shots left and right. And the enemy wants you to believe that there is no God, there is no hope, there is no sure thing to believe, there is nothing to trust in. He wants you to believe lies about yourself. You aren't good enough, you aren't strong enough, you aren't smart enough, you aren't good enough to take care of these things. You're not like them. Compare yourself to that person. You don't look like them. You don't sound like them. You're not talented as them. You're not as good as them. And so all these lies start to build and build in our minds, and so we start to feel pain, isolation, and alone. One of the kinds of pains that is really looming is sometimes we can talk about pain when people are going through really hard stuff, but there's a lot of pain that comes with isolation because we believe the lies of an enemy who tells us not to trust who God is and what he's made us to be. And we start to say, like, everyone else is having a good time, but I feel so alone. I feel so alone. I'm going through pain. No one understands me. No one gets me. And those are things that we say, and we say it because we're starting to believe lies that God has never said. God has never told in his word. If anything, he's told us the exact opposite. And so I want to close with 4 responses to pain. And the first is to ask yourself, So we're going to ask and remember